Hello and welcome to Joyless Gaming, and if I had no reason to play Dark Souls, I had even less reason to play the sequel. I can only see it as an expression of self-loathing. I pretty much have nothing positive to say, so I'll try to avoid ranting while just summing up my run. I picked Bandit to start with, to have high dexterity, and I took the life ring gift because I like having lots of health. I planned to play in a similar fashion to the first game, fast attacks and parries. However, parries were soon abandoned as they had an annoying timing and were difficult to practice. In addition, thrusting weapons and dex weapons in general seem to not be well favoured by the game compared to strength and strike weapons. I didn't realise the things betwixt was the tutorial, so I just ran straight through and went to collect items in Majula. And trying to find the pathways to the first areas of the game, settled on the Forest of Fallen Giants. I took the tedious approach, and I began what I came to refer to as hunting to extinction all of the enemies along the way. I didn't do it everywhere, but I did do it in many of the earlier game areas. Eventually, I bumped into the early pursuer fight. It didn't go well. I farmed up souls for the essentials from Melentia, and once I neared full extinction, I figured it was time to try the last giant. Its attacks were surprisingly weak by Dark Souls standards, and I'm glad it didn't take multiple attempts, because waiting for opportunities just to poke at his ankles was quite dull. Anyway, I resumed seeking extinction, saw the early stages of what would later be the realization that turtling behind a shield with spears and such was not viable due to the stamina cost. Exploring a little, I came across the Grand Lance, which actually would become a staple weapon of my run. I tried to tackle a pursuer, and clearly too soon. So on my second attempt I tried to use the Ballista, but he didn't appreciate that. After a tedious dodge fest, I managed to scrape by. I took a flight to the Lost Bastille and immediately teleported back to Majula for shopping and upgrades. I did more hunting before I finally noticed the pull cord next to the water gate that led me to Hyde's Tower of Flame. It sucked. I looked at ways to redefine hunting at Hyde's and then turned the Dragon Rider into the Wave Rider. And then indulged Lycia's extortion for access to Huntsman's Copse. I immediately went back to spelunking under Hyde's to find Newman's Wharf, to which I then set about making it live up to the name. Aside from Lucatiel, whose help I recruited for battling the Flexile Sentry. Then commandeered the ship for more access to the Lost Bastille, where I accidentally blew a hole in a wall because Macduff lost his keys. I mostly cleared the place, except for the pursuers. I just avoided those until later. And when it was mostly clear, I recruited a couple of randos to even up the Ruined Sentinel battle into a 3v3. Felicia certainly was brave, but Belclair was actually more help. I poked around some more, woke up Strayed, and made my way down Sinner's Rise, where I once again recruited Lucatiel and some rando for battling the Lost Sinner, and I definitely needed the help because I really suck at this. I can't even get gestures right. Lit the first primal bonfire and went back to Heidi's for some stragglers and to fight a dragon for no reason. Then just bounced all over and decided to go back to look for Belfry Luna and attempted the gargoyle fight, and that didn't go well. So, I went where hunting is welcome, and found out I was the prey. Alright, I went back to Hyde's to tackle the Dragon Slayer, who failed at his job because I'm the one who killed the dragon. I was looking around for the Skeleton Lords, but I made a wrong turn. And then another. Talk about not being prepared. Back from the dead, I just ran the gauntlet of skeletons and necromancers, tried to stop the horse, but ended up having to actually fight the thing, and just barely scraped by because I didn't have another melee weapon ready. I went back to clearing out Huntsman's Copse and looking for the real skeleton lords, and of course, there were bone wheels. And given that thrusting weapons are basically crap against skeletons, I used a magic mace I got somewhere, and I'm not sure if it was actually worth the damage trade-off. And I didn't think of equipping alluring skulls beforehand. Unlocked the valley where the harvester's poison, but I decided to go and explore some foggy woods. And I had to buy a ring just so I could talk to a scorpion to get his help killing his wife. Which unlocked the Doors of Pharos, which are just dank caves. I poked around, got invaded, got bored, and then just buggered off back to the poison mill. People say this boss is easy, and they are right, once you know to avoid him rolling sideways and flopping around on the floor. Climbing the mill proved really annoying with all of the ambushing mannequins, and they locked a gate leading to the ladder guy on the ledge outside. I had to look up how to get through there, but doing that led me to yet another summon sign, so that was helpful against the boss. And considering Mytha was taking all the poison to beautify herself, surely a party of 4 knocking on her door was a boost to the self-esteem. Well, this lift took 30 seconds. I was sure it was supposed to take longer, but that's probably because I'm loading from an SSD. Although it does rise up through an active volcano somehow. I recruited Lucatiel to distract the smelter demon, but I suck at this game. So, in another universe, went through the fiery maze that is Iron Keep, and I recruited a manhunter and hoped that she didn't notice this guy isn't quite a man. I wanted more souls, so I went back to attempt the Belfry Gargoyles again, and just barely scraped by. And after more faffing about, I finally threw myself down a well. And clearly the criticism of Blighttown convinced developers that they had gone too easy on everyone, so they made this shithole. And unfortunately, I'll be back later. So from one horror to another, Spider Town and religious fanatics. I hate spiders. Once again, I recruited a manhunter and hoped that she didn't notice that we were not hunting man. I'm actually not sure which would be worse, fighting this boss in the dark with more spiders hanging around, or fighting in the light and seeing everything. And back to the gutter, which really needed invaders. Really, thanks for that. I actually got quite lost and had to look up a guide to find a way through to Black Gulch. And yeah, we needed another poison area, definitely. And it was fiddly to get Lucatiel's help in Black Gulch, but the rest of the squad was easy to recruit, so that's something, even if they like to roll around in the fire. Now time to approach the castle under eternal rain. And I hate it here, so I'll leave. Yes, I died surrounded by rats. Why not more? And back to the castle, and you'll have to trust me that a lot of time passed between. And seeing as though I couldn't fully extinctify the stone soldiers, figured I should just run through for the bosses. Even if I had to actually escort poor bashful Ray all along. Especially past that poison room. That poison trap room was really annoying. I worked my way into the King's Passage, and with some help from my friends, we kept Mr. Mirror from summoning his. And then it was on to another dank ruin. Why doesn't this game have a rusted iron ring equivalent? I summoned help here because I thought the next fog door was the boss, but no, it was just more Shrine of Amana and a peculiar invader. After getting my revenge, I found what I was sure was the boss fog this time, and then had to backtrack to recruit help, because I wanted the frog to die first time. And it did. From there, we descend into a deep, dark madness. I hated the Undead Crypt. Probably my most hated area in the game. The stupid bell-ringing zombies and the stupid ghosts that would spawn from it. I was glad I stuck around long enough to see this zombie spawn right next to the bell. What do they have? What's their obsession with bells? I don't know. Even Edgelord Agdane couldn't handle that. Oh, is it grave robbing if they're still walking around? Went to find Aldia's Keep, where I met Lucatil for the last time before killing her brother. And, yeah, just breeze past all of the abominations. Then, after skewering the chicken at the gate, I dodged down a hole fighting his sibling. Then I found this ladder that let me skip the whole Eyrie. But unfortunately not the armored pricks blocking the stairs. And all of this was just so the dragon could give me something. After that, it's back in time to fight the camera and this giant sword. I decided if I ever wanted to try Dark Lurker, I should do the setup right now. So I went in search of Dark Diver Grandad at 3 different locations. However, being quickly beaten by a man wrapped in stone swinging a dragon's tooth faster than I swing a halberd made me realize I hate this game and just killed Grandad. I then shifted focus to getting the final giant soul, which means killing the ancient dragon. Got more than halfway on the first attempt, but I suck. But second try onwards, you can summon help. So that was great, giving even more health to the boss with the most health in the game. Anyway, giant souls in hand, I went to kill the king, and I failed. Because that bony bastard hits really hard. So being defeated by an old man sent me off to waste time doing anything else. Even dipping into DLC and exploring Shulva, the giant puzzle box. I sought help, and then decided to try a different tactic with Vendrick. I went back to my trusty rapier, because it has fast attacks and a low stamina cost. And I guess that is checkmate? Yay, back to Shulva. After much struggle and madness and terrible platforming, I managed to get down to face Ilana, Squalid Queen, and Velstadt. And Velstadt. On the plus side, the next boss is in the next room, so all that suffering beforehand was pretty much all of the DLC. Yeah. If this scrawny lizard would stay on the ground, it would be much less frustrating to kill it. And thankfully I managed to get through this without my weapon breaking, which I was quite sure would be a problem. I didn't really want to fight the NPC trio, but I made an attempt and somehow pulled it off. Well, anyway, I went into the next DLC, fully ready to be tilted, and boy does it deliver. Main thing I knew was to make sure I had smelter wedges for the idols near the Fume Knight, and that's about the best I managed. If I may take this moment to point out that Fume Knight, pretty much exemplifies most of my major, obvious problems with the game. You've got weirdly inconsistent timing on animations, and active frames of hitboxes, sooner or later. It's really odd timing. Enemies are more mobile than the player, but they don't have to worry about stamina. And they don't have to go through the same kind of recovery animations after attacks, even if they're heavy attacks. And it's really galling when those attacks do something like 50% health in one hit. It's just awful, and I'm glad it's dead. So if it wasn't obvious, I found that most bosses became a lot more manageable with summons, just because I wasn't the only target. And speaking of, Sir Alon, the summons were right at the start of the memory, so we all took on the gauntlet as one. Which sucked, because they went into the fight with a lot less health. And I barely pulled through, but I'm glad I didn't have to bother again. It was kind of the opposite of Fume Knight. Bit less BS and not quite as many 50% damage hits. But it was a bit of a preview for the final boss of the DLC, where again, the summons are right at the beginning of the run-up to the boss, and I actually died trying to get to the boss. So, the logical conclusion was to hunt them to extinction. I only started with the early enemies and tried to rush through with the squad, and it didn't work out, but I did get there. But they were significantly weakened. And yeah, sure, it was me who died. So, back to extinction. Rational? Probably not. But it highlighted another issue. Whether or not the bosses are tough, getting to them is often more of a problem. And this is relevant for the other boss I never fought, and you can probably guess which one that is. Anyway, exterminated every animate entity in the Iron Hallway, so I could safely lead the squad to battle. And it went much better. So, from fire to ice, the last DLC. Scrambled around for a while to find the Eye of the Priestess, so I could fight a giant cat without its stealth. And I'm glad the summons could celebrate with emotes, because they really carried the fight. The Queen made the place slightly less cold. I could have technically gone to the next boss immediately, but I wanted to recruit the other Lois Knights. And it sucked, if that wasn't obvious. So eventually, with the Knights all freed and my own squad ready to go, we dived into the old chaos for a real slog. Especially since the Ivory King kept running away from me. I guess I wasn't threatening enough. And the final blow was a bit anticlimactic. So, as I alluded to, there's a particularly bad boss run back for the other two of the King's pets. And I tried to make the run, and even with the summons it didn't go well. And it's honestly my fault for not just making a beeline through the area. But after dying there and knowing how close to the end of the game I was, I just went back to Drang Lake Castle for the final gauntlet. Throne of Want summoned my final squad mates and started with the Throne Duo. I personally tried to switch back and forth depending on which one had more health, so they would die closer together. Made it to Nishandra with the full squad alive, but her curse/damage aura did a real number on the team. Then, Aldia inserted himself into the spotlight and spouted some lore, which would have been different if I'd remembered to take the ivory crown to Vendrick's memory, but whatever. Got to tree lopping, and unfortunately I was the only one who made it. And that was it. Except for the unskippable credits trying to burn into my memory the name of everyone responsible for this travesty. Now, I finished the game somewhere over level 200. I forget exactly what it was. Something like 5 million soul memory. Last time I checked, I had 116 deaths. So it was probably total over 130. And at least 10 of those were me just getting depressed and jumping to my death. I've not gone on as long as I expected to, and it probably hasn't covered I've definitely not covered every complaint that I have. But I'll say that as soon as the game was over, I deleted it. Before anyone asks, I already have Dark Souls 3, and I will play it as well sometime in the new year. But I had so many issues with this game, and they're issues with the game, and they stem from issues with me as well, because I shouldn't be playing these games, and I shouldn't want to keep playing them, but my mind gets obsessed with possibilities and variables. You give me a game with lots of characters, or lots of character classes, or whatever, I will make many, many characters and try it many different ways. Give me like Fallout or Bethesda games, you know, I just play a lot, start new characters, try different ways of playing, even if it's just mechanical ways of playing, which it obviously would be in Dark Souls, because it's not a lot of actual role-playing. But, yeah, I've managed to not make this terribly long, I think, and that's good, because I don't really have positive things to say, so thanks for watching if you did. I hope this wasn't too dull and too annoying. And bye for now.